Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's early in the morning on the Shabbat. We are in Mammoth Lakes, California, on the road. I wanted to just reach out and just talk to everybody about a few verses in today's Torah portion that really touched my heart. Uh, the Torah portion this week is Balak and the book of Numbers. And what I'm going to talk about is in Numbers chapter 24, but also a little bit in Numbers chapter 23. In verse 9 of 23 we'll start, but basically we see here that the king of Moab he hired a religionist, basically a false prophet who was actually uh, he could have been a true prophet, but he chose in his prophecy some of these things were true actually, but what made him false was that he went for greedy gain, and he tried to thwart the purpose of the Most High through gain, because the purpose of the Most High prevented him from financial gain. And his name was Bilam, or Balaam in the English, Bilam in the Hebrew. So, but he's called to curse Israel. But he says, I cannot curse what the Most High has blessed. In this one part in verse 9, it says, I see them from the mountaintops, gaze on them from the heights. There is a people that dwells apart, not reckoned among the nations. Who can count the dust of Jacob, number the dust cloud of Israel? So we see here that Israel was not accounted as one of the nations in the same way in these days. We're in the world, but not of the world. We are to come out of the world. So ultimately, these words that he is uttering are true for the last days. And Israel on the border of Moab, on the border, ready to go into the promised land right here at the end of the 40 years in the wilderness, is very similar to where we're at now, where we're on the cusp of the promised land. We're on the cusp of the kingdom of the Most High. So the thing is, there is now a people being set apart, a people that are striving to live according to the commandments of the Most High, striving to be set apart and to do the will as expressed through the Mashiach, as expressed through the teachings of the prophets, and to live these things. And so, we strive to be these people. We want to be one of this number that are giving our life to the Almighty, and loving our neighbor, and praying for His will to be done, for the Almighty's will to be done, because the Almighty does not change His mind. The Almighty has spoken, and His will shall be done. The will of the Almighty will be done. The other little part here in Numbers chapter 24, it was concerning the Mashiach, and because the king of Moab was so upset at Bilam because he would not curse Israel, and he said, you can't curse someone that the Most High has blessed. And so if we hold true to His commandments and we do what is right, and then we know ultimately the Almighty is our protective shade, that He is our protective shade on our right hand, that no evil can befall us, because these things He protects His children. Now, it doesn't mean that you follow Him so that nothing can happen to you. You follow Him out of the love of your heart, but just know that ultimately, and that His protective hand is with His people ultimately, so that His will be known, so that He can be known among the nations, because it's Israel is to be a light to the nations, and so the works that He does with Israel will actually bring enlightenment to all mankind, and there's plenty room for everyone to make it to the kingdom, and but this is really beautiful here. In the last days, Bilam says, let me tell you what I see for your people in the last days, speaking to Moab. But then he turns around, he says, in verse 17 of Numbers 24, he says, what I see for them is not yet. What I behold will not be soon. A star arises from Jacob, and a scepter comes from Israel. This is Mashiach. Mashiach is to come, and in the last days, he will be manifest. His second presence, or his parousia, as it's brought out in the Greek, it will be like lightning from the east to the west. The knowledge of the Most High will cover the earth. There will be, the truth will be spread. The good news of the kingdom will be spread throughout all the earth. And this star will rise, a scepter, the rulership of Mashiach. This is he already came as a man, and it paid the ransom for mankind. And now he returns as the head of Yahweh's organization, heavenly and earthly. He is the one who is a name above all the angels, everything. He's the one the Most High has chosen to execute His purpose. And so the star has risen. And in these last days, everyone will turn and come to know it. So I want to finish this video with Ephesians chapter 1, speaking about how Yahweh, the Father, has lifted up his Son. He says here, verse 19. Well, yeah, let's start in 18. We'll start in 17. Ephesians 1:17. That the Elohim of our Master Yahshua Messiah, the Father of glory, may give you a spirit of wisdom and a revelation of the accurate knowledge of him. See, the Elohim of our Master Yahshua the Messiah. See, this is after Yahshua was already resurrected in the heavens, and the Apostle Paul says, Yahshua the Messiah, our Master, has an Elohim. So who's that Elohim? It's Yahweh the Father. One of the things that has to be very cleared up amongst the believers, amongst true Israel, is that Yahweh and Yahshua are two separate ones. Yahweh is Yahshua's Elohim, and all authority comes from Yahweh. That's how one could become the anointed, the Mashiach. The Almighty doesn't anoint himself. Anointing comes from one higher, one with more authority, one who is endowed with all authority is Melech HaOlam, Yahweh, the King of the universe. So we see here that the Elohim of our Master, Yahshua Messiah, this is Yahweh, the Father of glory. So Yahweh is the Father of glory, the Father of Kavod, you could even see, may give you a spirit of wisdom and revelation and the accurate knowledge of him. He has enlightened your eyes, the eyes of your heart, so that you may know to what hope he has called you, for what glorious riches he holds as the inheritance of the set-apart ones, or the Kadosh ones. How surpassing the greatness of his power is towards us believers. It is according to the operation of the mightiness of his strength, which he has exercised towards Mashiach, when he raised him up from the dead and seated him at his right hand in the heavenly places. Okay, so who did this? Yahweh did this. Yahweh raised up Yahshua. He set him where? At his right hand. Okay, Yahshua was not sitting at his own right hand. Yahshua was sitting at his Father's right hand, who is also his Elohim, who is also our Elohim. This is very clear throughout the scriptures. He says, far above every government and authority and power and lordship and every name that is named, not only in this system of things, but also in that which is to come. So Mashiach is above all, everything that is created, every government. There's no government on this earth that has any authority over Mashiach. He has authority over everything, and he will cause the Father's will to be done in these last days. That's what Balaam saw. He said, what I see for them is not yet. For Israel, it was not soon to come. There was many days to come. A star will rise from Jacob, and a scepter will come out of Israel. The rulership is going to come. The kingdom is going to come in the last days, and that's what it's talking about here. The apostles were the first to realize this. He also shall, verse 22, he also subjected all things under his feet and made him head over all things with regard to the congregation, which is his body, the fullness of him who fills all things up in all. And I'm going to skip to Ephesians 2:19. So you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but you are fellow citizens and of the holy ones, or the kadosh ones, set apart ones, and members of the household of Elohim. Okay, so you are no longer, if you believe in Yahshua Messiah and you accept him as your king, he's the king over only one, Israel. Israel says the one who was born in Bethlehem, Micah 5:2, is to be king of Israel. So he's king of Israel. We become Israel. The Israel of promise in these last days that is made up of every tongue, tribe, and nation. Israel of flesh, Israel of promise, beginning with the Jews, the Yehudim, and also so all of the natural Israelites that are people of faith make up this, alongside people of all nations that come to Mashiach, that come to Israel, begin to walk in the ways, eventually make up this beautiful nation. And then it says, and you have been built up on the foundation of the prophets, the apostles and prophets, while the Mashiach Yahshua is the foundational cornerstone. In union with him, the whole building, being harmoniously joined together, is growing up into a holy temple, or kadosh, set apart temple for Yahweh. In union with him, you two are being built up together in a place for Elohim to inhabit by spirit. So this is the true temple, the third temple, the real temple, the everlasting temple that will last forever, that will give praise forever. This is Joseph Israel on tour with the Jerusalem band early on Shabbat, the first Shabbat tour. This is the Paradise Tour, and we give thanks. We're going to play later at Mammoth Lakes Reggae Fest this afternoon and lift him up. Love you all. Shalom, shalom.